What's happening everybody, King GBL here, and welcome back to a brand new Go Battle League video. Today I'm going to be showcasing some interesting gameplay that's got me from 2900 ELO all the way up to 3046. But in today's video, I'm not really interested in the gameplay. I want to have a talk about Go Battle League, what's going on within this game, and why, in my personal opinion, this game is declining, and basically what I think NIANTIC needs to do to fix this game. Of course, it is quite a subjective opinion that the game is dying or the game is declining. However, if you just have a quick look on YouTube, go to any of your favourite content creators, look at their videos from a year ago, and look at the videos from now. Not only are a lot less people creating content, but also the interest in the existing content that is being provided for Go Battle League is not really as much as it used to be. And I think that's down to a lot of things that NIANTIC has control over. So the good news is, I think the game is trending downwards, but I think if NIANTIC were to make some fixes, really take a minute to care about the game, fix a lot of issues that are plaguing this game currently, and try to make this experience more refreshing and interesting, I definitely think that a lot more people would play it. You know, the thing is, in Pokemon Go, there are a lot of players who just play the game, go catching Pokemon, go raiding, but never even bother to touch Go Battle League. I think there's definitely a reason for that. If Go Battle League was as interesting as it possibly could be, I don't think it would be the case that a lot of people just don't bother playing it, or a lot of people are not interested in it. Anyway guys, let's hop into it. If you enjoyed today's video, and if you want to see some more discussion type videos, do let me know your opinions in the comment section down below. Drop a like in the video, and subscribe if you want to see more of these. Certainly do let me know your opinions on how you think Go Battle League needs to be improved, what NIANTIC needs to do to fix it, and if you have any ideas for any additional features or things that would make Go Battle League more interesting for you personally to play, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. So in my opinion, before you start adding new features and start going crazy with all these different ideas, I think the first thing is you have to get the fundamentals correct with the game. You have to make the game run smoothly, and I think pretty much all of us can agree. At the current moment, this game is far from smooth. Having listened to some interviews with Michael Staranka in the past, he talked about the challenges in creating Go Battle League in the first place, and that it wasn't the easiest thing for them to accomplish. I know from my own experience, when you're developing a game, changing the smallest of things can have a massive butterfly effect. For those of you who don't know this, it's a little known fact. Before I started making Go Battle League videos, the one thing that I was very interested in was creating a Battle Royale game actually. I spent a lot of time studying a lot of different aspects of things like matchmaking, animations, map design, a lot of different elements within game design. I completely understand that these things are not easy to change. I know that we often like to criticize NIANTIC, and I think that criticism is definitely warranted, but I do also understand that it's not always the easiest thing in the world. Oftentimes, whenever they're fixing the game, doing updates, what they'll do is basically create a local version of the game, and basically bug check everything. But whenever it goes onto live servers, a lot of unforeseen things can happen. You might think that the game is basically bug-free and that you fix something, but as soon as you put it on live servers, all of a sudden there's just this new bug that just doesn't make any sense, and you basically have to go digging and try to find out what happened. I completely understand that side of development. I've talked to and worked with a lot of people who are very good at game design, and who are developers in popular studios with popular games. Everything isn't always quite as easy as it seems to be from the outside looking in, so I do completely understand that. I do however think that NIANTIC are not doing their best to try to fix things. Having spoken to a few people, and having listened to some people talk who have some contacts within NIANTIC, it is pretty well believed at the moment that if they were to dedicate the resources to fixing Go Battle League, in terms of fixing all the frame drops, fixing one-turn bring-in, fixing the lag, and all of the issues that are plaguing this game currently, it is believed that that is something that could be fixed within a relatively short time frame. I don't want to name drop any particular streamers that I've listened to talking about this, because I don't want to kind of mention people and create a sort of weird scenario, but I have listened to some streamers who do have contacts within NIANTIC, and I have no reason to believe that they would just make that up. So I think we can all be very understanding that game development is not as easy as it looks from the outside looking in, but I think we also have to hold NIANTIC responsible to a certain degree and say, look, if NIANTIC really cared about our experience as Pokemon Go players, as Go Battle League players, and as paying customers at the end of the day, I know this is technically a free-to-play game. If you are very serious about Go Battle League, you most likely have to invest some money into this game, to go raiding, get XL candies, buy Poffins, star pieces, whatever it is that you need to of course upgrade your account and give you the Pokemon that you need for Great League, Ultra League, Master League, whatever the case is. At the end of the day, this game has made billions upon billions of dollars, yet they just aren't dedicating the resources, whether it be hiring new people, whether it be putting the current people that they have on the job, to actually fix the issues that this game has. I think this game being in quite a laggy and sort of unplayable state at certain times is one of the main driving factors for a lot of people quitting. Because like people can sort of forgive bugs to a certain extent, but then whenever the game is lagging on top of that, you're missing fast moves because you can't throw charge moves, you can't swap your Pokemon out. You've spent, you know, $1,000 on an Android phone and the game won't even run on it properly. It just gives people a very bad taste in their mouth, a very bad impression. And because this game is kind of very brutal in the sense that you only have 25 battles per day, if you're losing like 2 or 3 of those battles to lag, the chances are you're going to go negative for the day. There's nothing you can do to resolve that until the next day. You're left with a very negative feeling, and because the game's not operating the way it should, you just feel like, you know, why should I even bother with this, right? Why am I spending money? Why am I spending my real life time going out to catch these Pokemon whenever I just want to come home, sit down, play some Go Battle League, try my best to go positive. Of course, I'm going to go negative some days, but whenever the game is making you go negative because it's lagging, you're getting one turn bring in, your charge moves aren't showing up, and all of these issues, and of course a lot of other issues that I haven't even gotten into with how they decide to make decisions around Go Battle League, it just makes people not want to play. So I think Niantic's #1 priority needs to be fixing the lag issues in this game. This game is now a growing esport, and I think it's just quite embarrassing whenever people are watching this game for the first time. They're seeing all these frame drops, all this lag, all this nonsense that makes them think, why would I bother playing this game? Why would I invest my time and money and effort into this game if the company who's running it aren't investing the time, money and effort into making it better? So, in my personal opinion, the main incentive for Niantic to make this game an esport in the first place is for advertising. That is the main benefit to Niantic. People will see Go Battle League, they'll think, oh, this is a cool game, this is an esport, maybe I want to get involved, and maybe I want to play this game. Maybe this game's not just a tap your phone game, and oh yeah, these players are very skilled, etc, etc. But whenever people are seeing all this other stuff, I don't think people are really going to be interested in it, so that's my personal take. I think Pokemon Go going into esports is a great thing. I think Pokemon Go as an esport has a huge potential, because basically anybody can pick up Pokemon Go, they can put it on their phone, they can play it at their own sort of pace, right? They can play in their own free time. It's not like, you know, playing something on PC or PlayStation, you're kind of locked in to play at home. You can play this game anywhere, it's definitely a very cool game. They just need to do their best to maximize the potential, because in my personal opinion, you know, you take any Game Boy game, any Nintendo Switch game, any version of Pokemon that we played before Pokemon Go, you know, of course, yeah, it's all about catching Pokemon, but like one of the biggest aspects in Pokemon is battling. Whenever you think back to like even the Pokemon anime, are you thinking back to, oh yeah, do you remember that time Ash caught Squirtle? No, you're thinking like, oh yeah, do you remember that battle between Charizard and Magmar? You know, those are the things that you think about with Pokemon. So I just think they need to really tap into the potential of this a lot more, and of course making the game run smoothly is the first step in doing so. Now coming into the next sort of topic would be the features around the game, the decision making around what they do with Go Battle League, move updates and all those type of things, all the kind of new content and variety that they can add to the game to make it more interesting for existing players every season. Pokemon Go has quite a hardcore player base when it comes to Go Battle League. People are just very, very dedicated, put a lot of heart, put a lot of time into it. You have to continue to make this game as interesting as possible for your core community. If the game starts becoming too repetitive, again, that's going to be a driving factor for people to quit. So what can Niantic do to make this game less repetitive and less stale? Well, first of all, the thing I would like to talk about most probably is the weekly cup rotations. I think in the last 3 seasons, we've started to see a trend in this game where we're now having cup rotations that last for 2 weeks. For example, this season we had 2 weeks of Jungle Cup, 2 weeks of Remix, and correct me if I'm wrong, if my memory serves me correctly, I think it was 2 weeks of Spring Cup at the beginning. So basically they do Open Great League, Open Ultra League, Open Master League, and just keep rotating that, and then they do 3 Open Leagues. So throughout the season we have a lot of weeks with Open Great League, and we have a lot of weeks where you have, for example, Master League, plus the second week of a limited meta. I think this system is extremely detrimental towards the game's health, because here's the thing, right? Whenever the season drops, we always get move updates. The vast majority of people for the first week of Go Battle League every season plays Great League, and then of course you have Ultra League the second week, and maybe it'll be the first week of a limited meta. I think the way they're doing this is kind of killing the interest that the move updates created. Because think about it this way, right? Take this season for an example. We had Shadow Claw for Alligator and Steel Wing Empoleon. I think those were probably the 2 most interesting move updates from this season, which in my opinion were very fun and interesting updates. However, whenever you have the first week of Great League, oh of course we had Goodra as well, whenever you have the first week of Great League, and then you're putting us into 2 weeks of an RPS meta, which doesn't really include any of the new Pokemon that have been buffed, and we're just locked in here, our choices are play Master League, or play the second week of a meta that is pretty much RPS, and has pretty much been figured out to the point where it's a science, that everybody knows all of the matchups, people have played matchups several times so they know how to play it. After the first week, these metas boil down to the point where people have it figured out, people have figured out how to not lose swap against Pokemon, people figure out how to play these matchups correctly, and whenever you have a meta that's been boiled down so far, it makes it to the point where it is just complete RPS at a certain point. You know, there are only so many Pokemon that can be showcased, and so many Pokemon that can be fought of, that maybe core breakers to the current meta. It just reaches a point where you're forced to play the second week of a cup, which is starting to get very boring, or you're forced to play Master League, which of course, for the vast majority of players, is pretty inaccessible. And I would say possibly with the exception of Little Cup, it probably generates the least interest in Go Battle League. I think 2-week metas absolutely have to go. I think the way NIANTIC do things with Great League, Ultra League, Master League, all 3 open leagues, and then they do that once again, Great League, Ultra League, Master League, that's not bad, right? I just think it's bad whenever you have 2 weeks of a limited meta on your Ultra League and Master League weeks, because again, like, people get bored of the limited metas, they can't really play Master League, so like, what's their option here? Play this meta that you don't like, or play this meta that you can't play. People are just very, very limited in their options, and it just makes the game so boring and so stale. I think if this game was to do the same rotation with the open leagues, except a new limited meta every single week, or maybe even on some of the Ultra League weeks, you could have an Ultra League limited meta so that the Ultra League's not getting stale, I think it would just be a million times better. I also think that Great League Remix should be an absolute staple every single season in Go Battle League. I would even consider making Great League Remix a permanent cup and adding it to the permanent rotation. So for example, week 1 you would have Great League, second week Great League Remix, then Ultra League and then Master. I think that would be fantastic. And then of course, halfway through the season, Great League Remix is going to come again. I honestly think a lot of people would like that, and they would certainly prefer to play Great League Remix twice in a season, once at the beginning, once towards the end, rather than playing 2 weeks in a row of Jungle Cup, or 2 weeks in a row of Spring Cup. Even Great League Remix, 2 weeks in a row, I absolutely love that meta. It was a fantastic meta. I gained just an absolute ton of elo in that meta, but I was even starting to get bored of it towards the end. So I think cup rotations are definitely one of the most important things. They basically kill the momentum for the season whenever they're 2 weeks. They don't allow the new Pokemon that have been updated to shine and, you know, create more interest. And it basically causes people to skip weeks out of Go Battle League. You know, you don't want players to ever stop playing your game if you're a game developer. So you have to do your best to try and keep them there. You know, even if it's only for a couple of days, because this time it could be a couple of days, next time it could be a week. The time after that, they might think, well, you know, I was fine not playing it last week, so I mean, like, I'll just, you know, not bother playing this week. You know, forcing players to stop playing the game may result in them never playing it again, so I just don't know why you would ever want to do that. The one thing I do have to really mention here is Catch Cup. This absolutely has to go. Like, this week of Catch Cup, the vast majority of people do not like Catch Cup. Now, I've hit Legend twice in Catch Cup. I understand the purpose of it, but here's the thing. Catch Cup does not benefit new players as much as I think NIANTIC thinks it does, because, take for example me, I've played this game for probably like 2 years at this point, right? I'm sitting here, I've got 400 Lickitung XL candy, I could build a Bastion if I wanted to, I've got millions of Stardust. Let's say I started this game this season, like, I'm not really going to be able to compete with all these XL Pokemon in this Remix Cup, and it just creates this very random experience where you just don't know what you're going to see, and it just doesn't make any sense. It's not fun, it's not enjoyable. Of course, yeah, some people can spend 1.5 million Stardust or more in the Little Cup, which, by the way, I think that's an absolute disgrace. Little Catch Cup is a disgrace from NIANTIC's point, because they're basically forcing people to dump like a million and a half dust into Little Catch Cup Pokemon every single season. Like, why not just have Little Cup? Why does it have to be Little Catch Cup? The only reason that they would possibly want to do that is to force you to dump your hard-earned resources into this cup for 1 week. It's a disgrace, guys. It is an absolute disgrace. At the very least with Catch Cup, if you absolutely have to have it, I mean, at the very least, put another cup beside it that's not Little Catch Cup or Little Cup. Stick Ultra League beside it, do something. Little Catch Cup, I think, you know, during this week, this is the week that the most players stop playing for the week. Even myself as a content creator, who literally makes money from playing this game, I struggle to play Catch Cup for an entire week. It's just so tedious. So anyway guys, hopping into move updates. So I think there has been some quite interesting move updates in recent seasons. However, I do think pretty much every season, probably with the exception of last season to be fair, I think there's just been 1 or 2 move updates which are just very ill thought out and completely shift the Great League meta in particular in a very negative way. What I'm going to say next is a very subjective opinion. It's not objective. This is not the same thing that everybody thinks. But I do kind of get the feeling that a lot of people are agreeing with me on this one. I think the Great League meta in its current state, in terms of, we're not talking about competitive here, I think the competitive play Pokemon meta is in quite a good position at the minute, just because of the balance between a lot of the different typings and so on. But in my personal opinion, Open Great League is probably in the most RPS and boring state that it's ever been in. So again, this is what I think, right? I think a lot of the stuff that I said before is objectively true. This is definitely more of my opinion here. I think Open Great League is in one of the worst positions it's ever been in. I think the trio of Skarmory, Lantern and Whiscash is the most RPS and boring RPS trio that we've seen in the Great League. We have seen a lot of RPS trios in the Great League before, of course. We have seen the Medicham Noctowl Lantern trio. We've seen, let's say for example, the Trevenant Noctowl Medicham. You can think a lot of trios like Walrein, Noctowl, Medicham, whatever trio you think of, right? But I just think in particular, Skarmory and Whiscash and Lantern, I think these have a very toxic effect on the entire meta. And here's the reason I think so, and my opinion was sort of validated a little bit, having played the 2 weeks of Great League Remix. Grass-type Pokemon are very, very dead in this current meta. I think a couple of seasons ago, whenever we had Superior being one of the most popular Pokemon, being able to fight back against Medicham, we had Noctowl nerfed, which by the way guys, on my Twitter I said, give Noctowl Fly or Aerial Ace or something. You don't ever do that, right? Getting rid of Noctowl out of this meta was a good idea. I will say, like, grass types with the presence of Skarmory, having Skarmory, it's no better than having Noctowl, and in some cases it's probably even worse. Grass Pokemon are in one of the worst spots they've been in for quite some time here. We had a meta where the main flyers were Gligar, the main flyers were Pelipper, Mantine. Those were the main guys, right? Noctowl was dead, everybody was happy, people were safe swapping grass Pokemon, and if you get ahead by, like, let's say 3 or 4 Vine Whips, you're able to flip matches against things like Pelipper. Whenever the main flyers in a meta have a subtyping that is weak to grass, that makes the meta very, very healthy in my personal opinion. Because think of it like this, right? It's not RPS whenever, if you safe swap, the opponent takes a long time to swap in, and you're able to two-shot them with a grass type. That is the absolute definition of non-RPS. Because it means that your grass Pokemon are not getting completely hard-walled by a Noctowl, are not getting completely hard-walled by, let's say, a Skarmory. The presence of Skarmory having the Steel and Flying typing basically kills any Vine Whipper out of this meta. The only grass type that is somewhat viable in my personal opinion is Trevenant. Trevenant beats Skarmory in the one shield, so that is one sort of Pokemon that can survive. Now you can make the point of maybe just buff grass type Pokemon, but I just don't ever see it being to the point where fighting back against Skarmory is something that's viable, unless they get just insane move updates, which at that point may even make them overpowered. I think Skarmory poses a big problem. It's a Pokemon that usually only knows flying attacks. You can run, of course, Return or Flash Cannon, but let's be honest, it's Sky-Attack Brave Bird for the most part. Skarmory is inherently RPS. If it gets lined up onto a Steel type, it gets walled. If it gets lined up onto a Lantern, it basically gets walled. Lantern itself is an RPS Pokemon because it's RPSing the Skarmory, gets RPSed by the Whiscash, which are, like I said, probably the 3 of the most common Pokemon, certainly. And with the update to Spark doing more damage, it just does a ridiculous amount of damage, and has way too much play into things that it really shouldn't have. Again, things like grass types aren't even that great into Lantern, and that should really tell you everything. The grass types can't fight against the Skarmory. They're only barely beating the Lantern, unless of course it's, you know, a very hard wall grass type to it. But things like a Trevenant, like you can almost two-shot a Trevenant with Lantern. So Lantern getting a little bit of an energy lead kind of makes that match really tricky for Trevenant. And then on the other hand, you have Whiscash, which is spamming debuffs left, right and center. It's a bulky Pokemon. Scald does the same amount of damage as Hydro Cannon, with a 50% chance of debuffing the opponent. People just go for Scald, even though it's resisted, just to get the debuffs to cheese their way through matchups. And I think a lot of the updates recently have been adding a lot more randomness to the game. I'm sure we've all seen in competitive formats that people get Night Slash boosts and go crazy, right? Or, you know, people are getting Scald debuffs and suddenly, like, they're just losing matches to coin flips. I don't think that should ever be the case to make this game interesting, because you want to feel that you have some sort of control over what's happening. If you're just getting debuffed randomly, if people are spamming Icy Winds, of course a couple of seasons ago we had Steelix with the Breaking Swipe, now we've got Wigglytuff with Icy Wind, which I don't know why you would ever give a bulky Charmer, which again is an inherently RPS Pokemon, a debuffing move. I think the season before we had Triple Axle Gardevoir, which never really made a big splash, but I'm not sure why we're making these types of choices as Niantic. Why are we adding more RNG, which is random number generator, by the way, for those of you who don't know? These RNG Pokemon, why are these being added into the meta and being made staples of Go Battle League? I just don't think that's right. I also think that the Basti, Vic, and Wiggly team is just out of control at this moment in time. Again, it just makes the experience in Great League just absolutely putrid at times, especially if you're playing around, you know, Veteran, Expert. Like, if you guys are pushing for Legend tomorrow, whenever Great League comes back, I mean, get ready to see that team all over the place, because people just love running that. In the 2 shield scenario, Victory Bell, I think, takes out a Registeel. It's ridiculous. In the 2 shield scenario, Wiggly can charm through just so many things. Icy Wind and Charm, 2 shield. Just 2 shield for alignment, no consequence. The only way you're getting punished is if you see like a Registeel, but like, honestly guys, you'd be surprised how well Wiggly does against Reggie. It's kind of ridiculous. I think the game needs to be taken more away from RPS Pokemon and more into neutral play. And that again is why I think the Great League Remix was just an absolute ton of fun. You're not seeing these inherently RPS Pokemon everywhere. They're completely taken out of it, and we're able to play with neutral Pokemon, and it requires a lot more thought. Nobody wants to play a game where the result is basically predetermined by what lead you see. We all like to think that we have, you know, a way of playing out of things. Of course, in any sort of game, you're always going to have just a hard wall to yourself, right? Like, you may just get completely RPS'd, it's going to happen. But if we're buffing these inherently RPS Pokemon, and making it more RPS, it's going to always make the game less enjoyable. The only reason you would do move updates like this is to try to basically give some players who are less skilled free wins, basically. They get a bunch of debuffs, they can just, you know, RPS and debuff. You know, that's the only reason you would want to do something like that, which I understand from NIANTIC's point of view. You want to give people like some free wins, they can just charm down and get their free wins, they can have some fun with Go Battle League, but that is the absolute definition of sacrificing the long term for the short term. These players are going to get better at the game if they're just getting into it using these Pokemon, and whenever they do get better at the game and realize, hey, like, a lot of these Pokemon are just RPS, like, a lot of the times, because these Pokemon are the way they are, I just can't win because I'm getting debuffed, or my grass type's getting hard walled by a Skarmory, I'm just getting the wrong alignment on Basti, Wiggly, and Victory Bell. That's not going to make people think that this game is good. And finally guys, I've went on for quite some time here. My last very hot take here is that move updates, regardless of whenever World Championships are taking place, should always be good and should always aim to change the game in a considerable way that makes the game more interesting for everybody to play. I will say this, I love competitive Pokemon Go, I really enjoy watching it, I'm a huge fan of it, and actually something that I'm getting involved in, is basically online regionals. I will leave a link in the description if you guys are interested in that, where you basically play regional tournaments online. It's not the official Play Pokemon thing, but it is something that we're looking to build as a community with all our popular content creators, and try to make this online regional format where you can basically not have to attend a regional, but have the type of experience that you would have there. I'm a massive fan of competitive Pokemon, but you have to prioritize the casual player base over competitive. I would say like the competitive community, over the whole course of Pokemon Go, you're talking about like an absolute 1%, guys. We're talking about 1% here of the overall player base who are interested in going to regionals, interested in watching regionals, etc. You're talking about a very low percentage. So for you to not do move updates because you've got a World Championship coming up, again, you're sacrificing a vast majority of the community for a very small percentage of people, which I do not think is right. Look, I will admit, as a competitive player, you should not be getting move updates, let's say for example, the day before Worlds, right? The day before Worlds come, and next thing you know, you've got Drill Run Skarmory coming in out of nowhere, you've got Psychic getting a buffed on Medicham, and suddenly Medicham's a meta again, Noctowl is getting counter. Like, I can understand how that would be super annoying, but I'm going to tell you this, guys. What is the most popular game of all time? I think it's actually Minecraft, but a close second is definitely Fortnite. Guys, they literally drop updates on the day of the tournament. New map, new mechanics, boom, have at it. We're going to advertise our new features in the game. In front of this audience, we're going to get eyes on screens. People want to watch the best players play against each other in this new format that we've created. I don't think Pokemon Go should necessarily go that far as to drop everything on the day of Worlds, right? But I mean, there's absolutely no reason that they shouldn't be doing decent move updates and rectifying a lot of the issues that the current leagues have, just because we have a tournament coming up in a couple of weeks. If these players are, which they are, truly the best players in the world, they should be able to adapt, they should be able to have a look, re-strategize, and from a viewer standpoint, that's going to make it much more interesting. And from a standpoint of everybody who just wants to play the game casually, you know, your dad who goes to work 9 to 5, comes home, doesn't give a shit about competitive Pokemon Go, just wants to play some Pokemon Go Battle League, maybe gets a little notification in the game, oh, we've got some new move updates, this is really interesting, let me hop back into Go Battle League. Those people are the most important people, because if those people are not playing and those people are not interested, you don't have a platform for a competitive format to exist. You have to take care of the casual players, and the casual players will take care of everything else. You'd never sacrifice the 99% for the 1%. Anyway guys, I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, please drop a like on the video, subscribe. There are even more topics I'd like to get into, but this video is dragging on a little bit, and hope you guys enjoyed. I really do want to hear your opinions. And I do want to say a big thank you everybody for all the support in the videos, the streams. We have about another week here of this season. I'll certainly be doing some live streams on YouTube, and I will of course try to make some content in the meantime. If we get any sort of information about the new updates, I'll let you guys know. Thank you very much everybody, have a fantastic rest of your day, appreciate you all watching to the end, and I'll catch you guys next time.